Please let me know if you're heading to Augusta for the Masters next week. I'll be there Thursday, Friday. If you're there, love to say hello. And this is your morning Buzzcast for Thursday, April 3rd. Good morning. I'm Abe Madcore. It's not a surprise, but it's getting closer to becoming a formality. As FIFA said, the United States and the United Kingdom are set to be named as host of the Women's World Cup in 2031 and 2035. The United States has put forward the only bid for the 31 edition, while a joint bid from England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland is the only valid bid of interest for the 35 tournament. Remember, the U.S. was targeted to host the 2027 Women's World Cup, but withdrew plans to host for a variety of reasons, and now Brazil will host the 27 edition, so the U.S. bid in 31 will likely be in combination with several other CONCACAF nations, likely Mexico, and this will mark the third edition that the United States will host after hosting the 99 and 2003 Women's World Cup. The UK has never hosted a Women's World Cup, but for North America, and we've talked a lot about this on the Buzzcast, it reestablishes this amazing global run of sports events. The World Cup next year, LA 28, the Women's World Cup in 31, the Rugby World Cup in 31, and the Winter Games in Salt Lake in 2034. Wow. It could be a booming sports business economy in the United States. Speaking of economy, there of course will be a lot of eyes on the stock market today, Thursday, as President Donald Trump imposed a raft of new tariffs Wednesday night, and afterward on the global markets, shares in Nike, Adidas, Puma dropped sharply after the tariffs were imposed on countries including Vietnam, Indonesia, China. These are key markets for these sportswear companies. Vietnam was hit with a 46% tariff rate. Nike, Adidas, and Puma all have major manufacturing efforts in Vietnam. About half of all of Nike shoes and about 40% of Adidas shoes are made in that country. So the tariffs could greatly impact these companies. We are seeing the early market reaction today and will continue to monitor this as it progresses. Let's move on. A new era will hit the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Lynx as the Glenn Taylor era will come to a close. He agreed to sell the teams to Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez, who will be acquiring 100% of ownership of the teams at the very affordable price tag of $1.5 billion. That was a price tag reached in 2021. The deal finally closes after a long dispute. So why is this important? Well, Glenn Taylor decided to not appeal the ruling of arbitrators that favored the A-Rod Lowry Group in a dispute over the deal. And for some historical perspective, the 83-year-old Glenn Taylor bought the T-Wolves for $94 million in 1994. And now he's selling the T-Wolves and the Lynx for $1.5 billion. Many people think it is still a major bargain. Now, I'm not speaking out of school and saying there will be changes. There will be changes to probably both organizations. The Timberwolves are seen as a smart, well-run business and basketball operations, but once this deal does close, there will be changes to the front office, as sources assure me that A-Rod and Lowry are aiming to make changes and bring in people they are familiar with. Remember, many of the current leadership on the T-Wolves and the Lynx had to pick sides, Glenn Taylor or the new owners, during this arbitration process. And that's been very personally difficult and challenging for leadership. Imagine putting yourself in that position. Another pending decision is whether the new owners will pursue a new arena to replace the Target Center. It's hard to believe the Target Center is the NBA's second oldest venue behind only Madison Square Garden. So I'm sure talk of a new facility is going to be definitely ramped up. But the bottom line, a new era in Minnesota. There will be changes to the front office, not just with the T-Wolves, but with the Lynx, and there'll be more aggressive approach for a new venue in that city. Here's a deal that brings two big figures of sports and society closer together, as the UFC has completed a multi-million-dollar, multi-year deal with Meta, and that brings the connection between Mark Zuckerberg and Dana White even closer. You will see all of Meta products across the UFC. We're talking Facebook and Instagram and Meta Quest, Meta Glasses, WhatsApp, Threads. And you will also see its branding featured in the Octagon ring for pay-per-view and Friday night events. So this deal, it took about 6 months to close as the companies first started talking about a sponsorship deal in the second half of 2024. So an interesting deal for the UFC. The deal was spearheaded by 40 under 40 honoree Grant Norris-Jones, who is the head of global partnerships for the TKO Group, which of course is UFC, WWE, and other entities. Let's move on to golf. New Live Golf CEO Scott O'Neill hasn't spoken very publicly, very frequently since taking over the role in January, and I believe he's kept a pretty low profile. But he did make the media rounds this week at the Live Golf event in Miami, and reports are that he will be at Augusta next week as well. So here's what I took away from his comments to the press. Scott O'Neill says he doesn't believe momentum around a deal with the PGA Tour and the Public Investment Fund has slowed or waned, but, he did say he is okay if an agreement never comes together. He cited the patience of the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund and the leaders of the Saudi sports space. And one source close to PIF told me something very similar this week. They pushed back on the recent narrative or belief that eventually Saudi Arabia would run out of patience with Live Golf, and perhaps even that Live Golf would be diminished or might even go away. But that is not the sense I'm getting at all from those close or part of Live Golf. In his remarks to reporters, O'Neill stressed what many close to Live stressed to me. This is a global golf league that is here for the long term. He also pointed out Live's engagement among fans in the Middle East and in Europe when they play in those markets. So bottom line, he stressed Live is here to stay and he likes being a global sports league. Now, O'Neill also talked up this week's Live event in Miami, saying it's a big one for Live because it is the first domestic event for Live Golf, and it's also its first domestic event on Fox Sports, their new media partner. So this comes also as Brooks Koepka, who of course was one of the first players on the Live Tour, said it's no secret that the players all hoped that Live Golf would be a little bit further along than it is right now. But Koepka did balance that by saying he believes Live Golf is making progress and heading in the right direction. But a big week for Live Golf in Miami. You know, some news on one of the most closely watched teams in the NFL, as chairman of the Chicago Bears, George McCaskey, said the family has no desire to sell the team. And this comes less than 8 weeks after the death of principal owner and his mother, Virginia Hallis McCaskey. So George McCaskey said the family hopes to own the Bears as long as possible, and that his mother established a sustainable succession plan that the NFL has approved. Meanwhile, Bears CEO Kevin Warren will make a presentation to the team's board of directors outlining the pros and cons of private equity investment. And selling a percentage of the team could help the Bears afford to build a new stadium. And Warren suggested that the future location for a new stadium could be focused back on the suburbs. It's no secret that the Bears were hoping to get more traction behind a new state-of-the-art facility in downtown Chicago on the lakefront, but that just hasn't taken hold. And Kevin Warren confirmed the team no longer is singularly focused on the new stadium downtown. He said their focus is on both downtown and Arlington Heights. We know that Arlington Heights is the suburb. He loves the potential to develop mixed-use projects on over 320 acres. They own this land in Arlington Heights. Kevin Warren also said the next 3 to 6 months will be critically important for the Bears Stadium project. So we're going to hold them to that and see just what developments are forthcoming in the next 3 to 6 months. And we'll end with this because we've talked about it on the Buzzcast, a big victory for Boston's NWSL expansion franchise as a judge ruled that the renovations of White Stadium in Boston is not in violation of state laws. That's a huge win for Boston Legacy FC, which hopes to begin playing in this renovated stadium next March. Yes, it's coming up soon. A final price tag on the project is not yet known, but it will cost more than $200 million, and the team is responsible for more than half of that amount. It will be a 10,000-seat capacity venue once it's completed. And there's still a ways to go, but that was a huge step forward for Boston's NWSL expansion franchise and their vision for a new venue. And so that is your morning Buzzcast for Thursday, April 3rd. I'm Abe Madcore. Thanks for listening to the Buzzcast. Stay healthy. Be good to each other. I'll speak to you tomorrow.